Good morning, everybody, and welcome back. Yes, I'm back this morning with another video because yesterday was a big day as President Biden unveiled his Build Back Better plan, this $2.2 trillion infrastructure plan, part number one. Yes, there will be a part number two to be unveiled here in about 3 to possibly 6 weeks. But part number one was unveiled yesterday in Pittsburgh. Let's get you guys caught up on everything. I have a full recap and breakdown in a summarized form to get you caught up on all the events of yesterday. Let's get straight into it. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back. I'm Edward Bilder. To all my loyal subscribers out there, welcome back for another video. And if you are joining us for the first time today, welcome. Consider becoming a subscriber. I'm going to break this out for us because President Biden, he kind of jumped around a bit, bouncing between carbons and service lines. And so I kind of bucketized it and brought it all back together in a format that might make more sense for us, where he talks about the environment, carbon capturing, EV, electrical vehicles. He talks about manufacturing, research and development, service lines, the community sector, and then taxes and the IRS. So I'm going to break this out. Now, we expect this to bring 5 million jobs over the next 8 years, and this could possibly be done through budget reconciliation. Part number one is being titled the American Jobs Plan, and in a few weeks, 3 to 6 weeks possibly, we will see the American Family Plan. Let's get straight into these details.
Okay, I'm going to break this out for you. Now, this is not in the same order as how he spoke about it in his speech today because he bounced around quite a bit. But I thought I should bring these together in a method that might be a bit easier to follow, like lumping things together that might make more sense. So I'm going to start with transportation. This is $620 billion will go to transportation. He spoke about bridges quite a bit and highways and roads. And so $115 billion will go to bridges, highways, roads, $20 billion for road safety. And he spoke of the 10 most economically significant bridges in the United States that need to be completely replaced and will be replaced. And another 10,000 total bridges will be repaired. $85 billion for public transportation, and this includes new rail cars in and out of cities. I actually happen to live like 15 minutes from Scranton, and that's where Biden was born and raised. And they have been attempting this for the past 30 years. They want to have a rail system that'll take us into New York City, which is about a 2-hour drive. And I don't know how long the commute would be on rail. I mean, there'd be a lot of stops along the way. $80 billion for Amtrak, $25 billion for airports. He did mention the Pittsburg airport, and he mentioned that it's under renovation. I actually recall it was under renovation for quite some time. I remember, it's probably been at least 7 years. $17 billion for ports, ferries, and canal systems, and $20 billion for disadvantaged communities. Okay, he has a whole section here on environment and carbon capture. This is primarily focused on EV vehicles, electric vehicles. $174 billion to EV tax incentives. This includes charging stations and, of course, buying new vehicles. And, of course, it's probably a better tax incentive if you buy an American-made vehicle. By 2030, he would like to see 500,000 charging stations across the U.S. and plans to increase the government purchases of electric buses and federal vehicles with this transition to go from gas-powered to electric and hydrogen-powered vehicles. Hydrogen being a new mention. Interesting, you brought that up. And here, of course, Buy American, right? So they plan to buy all these government vehicles from American. Carbon capture came up. It says here 10 carbon facilities, expands carbon capture credits to make Section 45Q easier to claim that refund, and $10 billion for civilian climate corporations that will employ Americans. Interesting. $180 billion will go to R&D, and this is to upgrade the infrastructure of labs for climate control and gender and racial inequalities, talking about like SMED here. Well, I guess he said science, math, and tech. I kind of just relate that to SMED, science, math, engineering, right? Let's shift over to manufacturing. He wants to bring $300 billion to manufacturing, specifically $50 billion to semiconductors, $50 billion for the National Science Fund, $50 billion for a new department inside the Department of Commerce, which would monitor domestic industrial capacity, No more supply chain shortages is, I think, where they're heading here. That's going to be an interesting one. I actually am an engineering manufacturing business consultant, and most of these companies out there that have these supply chain shortages, they just don't have the systems to monitor. So how they're going to get that done, unless it's going to come with some kind of government funding if you share your data, I don't know. That's going to be a tough one to get by. He also spoke of the workforce. He wants to bring $100 billion for workforce development. This is training through apprenticeships and for those that have lost their jobs. And he plans to create hundreds of thousands of jobs. He talked about a whole section on service lines. This consists of water lines, electric grid, and broadband. He is talking about clean water in the terms of lead pipes. He wants to spend $45 billion to eliminate lead pipes nationwide. This is 100% elimination of lead pipes. That doesn't include lead pipes that are inside of your home, though, but service lines. $56 billion in grants for low-cost loans to states and localities that improve their water systems, and $10 billion to bolster the rural well and waste systems, and 100% replacement of every lead line is what he said. He wants all Americans to be able to drink clean water. Every $5,000 spent could save $22,000 in related healthcare expenses. And that's just straight lead service lines gone. He wants to boost the electrical grid. He did bring up Texas, what happened here just recently in Texas. $100 billion for more significant resilient grids. $10 billion a year for the extension of the phase down of an expanded refundable investment tax credit. We're talking about for renewable energy, so it could be for in the terms of wind or solar, or possibly solar generation or solar generation storage, or possibly even generation on top of your own roof. Higher labor standards came up. 100% carbon pollution free by 2035, and $16 billion to be spent on abandoned mines and gas wells. Basically, he is saying that there are still open mines and gas wells that just, they're orphaned, and they were just left. Now, I live near Scranton. Okay, so yes, there's this thing we call splunking, and it's where you go into the old abandoned mines because a lot of these things are still open, and we used to be this huge coal region, and yeah, you could go and crawl around some mines. Dangerous. I don't recommend it. Don't recommend it to anybody. Broadband. He's talking about $100 billion to bring high-speed internet. And this was interesting. More transparent pricing. All right, very specific on that, and subsidies for low-income households. He doesn't want to have any child out there to not be able to have the access to internet in their own home. I think that might be a good move. I'm going to shift over to the public sector here: schools, childcare, elder care, and households. He plans to bring $100 billion to improve public school buildings. $50 billion in direct grants, and additional $50 billion through bonds. $12 billion in community college facilities. $25 billion to upgrade child care facilities, which would be through like tax incentives and on-site child care. In the elder care sector, $400 billion for housing and care for the elderly and those with disabilities, and $18 billion to modernize VA facilities and clinics. In the household section, $213 billion to build and renovate 2 million affordable homes. That would be through like HUD. Tax credits on buildings for low-income families, $40 billion for public housing, and upgrade to some commercial facilities as well. So here's an interesting section, and it is on taxes and IRS audits. So corporate tax hikes are definitely something that are being talked about. He wants to raise corporate taxes with a minimum of 15%. He wants to raise the corporate tax from 21 to 28%. And then he wants to raise overseas minimum tax profits from 13% to 21%. And this is an interesting one. He wants to eliminate the tax breaks for oil and gas. And this would also include for companies that pollute to pay into the Superfund Trust Fund. And that's a trust fund that's designed for remediation of like oil spills or soaks into the soil, anything that's really polluting lakes, rivers, streams, the water supply, you name it. So that Superfund Trust is designed to do that. So they'd have to pay into this thing now. IRS audits were brought up, and this is to provide additional funding to increase audits on corporations. So with the corporate tax hikes, they want to make sure they're going to pay. And additional details will be coming up in the near weeks, because there may be additional audits on personal income tax as well. So let me sum all this up for you. And before I do, if you really appreciate the research I do here, tap the like button. Every time you touch the like button, YouTube recommends this video to more and more people, and it really helps me out here on the channel. So in the final words of Biden, he wants to reward work, not wealth, bringing 5 million jobs, possibly doing this through budget reconciliation. Part number 1 we're going to see here today. We saw it announced, and part number 2 will be announced in a few weeks, called the American Family Plan. But the American Jobs Plan, I mean, this is really a plan to compete with China, really boost our edge and battle out over biotech and batteries and computer chips and clean energy, etc. So he's had a lot of long discussions with the Chinese government, and I mean, this is his plan. It's going to be a 15-year vision. He wants to spend $2 trillion, $2.2 trillion over this 8 years. And if we fail to do so with these investments today, it could put our children at a disadvantage and in tons of debt. In other words, is what he's saying. Our infrastructure is crumbling. We rank 13th in the world. And, you know, he's talking that he already spoke with McConnell, trying to get the whole team in line, and that nobody making under $400,000 a year will see their federal taxes go up. Interesting, he said federal taxes go up because who knows? I mean, there could be increases on other taxes elsewhere. Historically, this plan has been a bipartisan plan, so it should go off without a hitch. This is like the bipartisan part, and then possibly the American Family Plan may not be as bipartisan, so that might be done through budget reconciliation, because this one might have the support of both sides behind it. So that sums it all up. I hope you guys enjoyed that, and if you enjoyed the way I presented that, tap the like button, do us a solid, and swing by the description. Check out Webull if you want to get into some investing platforms. I use Webull each and every day, and I'm telling you, in about a month's time, I get about $2,000 worth of free stocks by clicking 2 simple buttons and recommending it to my friends. And every time I recommend it to my friends on Facebook, I get all these free stocks. If I don't like those $2,000 worth of free stocks, I just trade them in. I mean, I could sell them and just take that $2,000 in cash and really do whatever I want with it. So check Webull out in the description. If you need further assistance outside of this, you could join me for a one-on-one consultation pinned in the top comment. Remember, I'm always looking for new partners in my B&B investings and my short-term rentals. That's going to do it for today, folks. I thank you all again, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye for now.